been listening to a few different podcasts, reading some newspapers about Munster rugby, and there seems to be a bit of unrest. And after the game against Cardiff the other night, Cardiff obviously ran them very, very close. They didn't play to their potential whatsoever, and they have a pretty good team out Munster against Northampton. They have a really good backline. Obviously, Casey seems to be number one now. Jack Crowley, Shane Daly on one wing, who obviously is fantastic. Zebo on the other. Nash isn't available. And yeah, they've obviously Fresh and Nankivell in the centres who have been a great combination all year. So it's whether or not this front five can deliver against a pretty impressive Northampton side this year. But I think Northampton and Munster have had some really good ding-dong battles in the past in the Champions Cup. Some really close games. We'll remember that, albeit in Thomond Park, the last-minute drop goal from Ronan O'Gara to beat Northampton in the last play of the game, I think. Way back, Munster have beaten them over there as well a couple of times. So, yeah, I think Munster will be quietly confident, even though there's all this chat and hype and it might be rumours. Some players might come out and say it's absolutely nonsense. Some players might come out who contracts are up in the air, who maybe aren't getting on with, Graham Roundtree as well as others and say, oh yeah, it's not that happy. So I think there's always unrest in every single team because there's players that aren't getting selected week in and week out who probably think they deserve to be selected. So there's always going to be boys that aren't happy. But it's been able to control and manage that environment. And our Munster doing that well at the minute. Well, the chat around them is that they're maybe not doing it as well as they should be. And again, the Conor Murray situation with contract has been sorted out. The Peter O'Mahony one still goes rumbling on and isn't being sorted out. Obviously, give up the Munster captaincy. And yeah, it just seems like Munster at this moment in time, even though they won the URC championship last season, that they're still trying to get this squad together. And what better way to show that things are okay and things are in a good place and they are going the right direction and going away to Northampton, league leaders, and putting in a really dominant effort and hopefully coming away with a victory. And with RG Snyman and Tag Byrne in the second row, Peter O'Mahony, Coombs, Hodnett, who's been unbelievable. And if they can get the backline firing with Jack Crowley at 10, who's shown with Ireland that he is capable of running big games, then I give them a chance. I really do give them a chance because I think the Premiership teams have been sketchy at times during the season. And the Champions Cup's a completely different beast. And yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how the game goes. But I'm going to say Munster for an upset on Sunday at 12:30. It's going to be a really good game and one that surely going to be tuning into. Oh, I'm sick of talking about the negatives, Donny, of Ulster rugby. Like, it just seems to be never ending. We all know, first of all, it was Dan McFarland. Well, before that, previously, it was actually, there was chat coming out that financially they were in a poor place. And obviously that was translating onto the pitch also with their performances, especially in the Champions Cup when they got absolutely hockeyed on a couple of occasions, especially at home to Toulouse and then away to Harlequins. McFarland out the door, Johnny Petrie out the door, and that looks like Steven Kitshoff is out the door. So the last person out of Kingspan Stadium, make sure and turn the lights off. Like this is what it is feeling like at the minute. I know there's a core group of players, same team, well, more or less the same team. One or two changes in the back line against Montpellier this week. The same pack that's starting, and they put up a really good showing against the Stormers. Played some good rugby, ran the ball back hard, physically were up to the challenge, but just inevitably couldn't close the game out. And the Stormers kept coming and eventually that door just slightly opened and the Stormers took it. So yeah, Steven Kitshoff obviously was up against his former team, and during that trip in South Africa, it's been reported by a rugby magazine in South Africa that Steven Kitshoff and John Dobson met, went out for dinner or had a conversation anyway, excuse me, in Cape Town. And there were rumours before that Ulster might try and get him off the wage bill, even though he's only been in Northern Ireland not even the guts of 6 months, I don't believe. And yeah, it's a weird one because everybody was so excited to get this double World Cup winning loosehead prop who was going to bring so much to the table, and Ulster were going to leap on, and that hasn't happened. If anything, Steven Kitshoff has been getting dominated in the scrum. I'm not saying it's down to him, of course, because whether it's Rob Herring or Tom Stewart or whoever's scrumming down beside him, as well as Tom O'Toole, they've been under massive pressure and under the pump, and he's certainly been exposed as well. So yeah, it is rumored that he is definitely going. He is going to be leaving Ulster at the end of the season. And generally, I'm flicking down my social media, Twitter feed and Instagram feed to see when it's going to be announced. I could be completely wrong, but from sources close, players they chat, and people in the game chat, and it by all accounts it sounds like these rumors are going to become true at some stage over the next few days or few weeks. So yeah, it's not ideal, is it? It's not ideal again, yet again, for Ulster Rugby to have negative media coverage heading into a game against Montpellier that Steven Kitshoff is starting in. And, it's backs against the wall. It's just been on a 2 week trip to South Africa, and I have to jump on a flight over to France to play in another big game. Albeit Montpellier are struggling. Like, they're struggling in the top 14, haven't played well at all. Garbisi's left them the right half. He's away to Toulon mid-season. Richard Cockrell was in charge at the start of the season, went on like a 10-game running loss. He then was out the door. So they're not in a particularly good position either. But what they do have is a pretty big pack. It'll bring a lot of physicality, and if Ulster aren't up to it, which is what we've said. So during the season, Donny, you seen Ulster beat Racing 92 at home, then lose at Edinburgh at home, then they pick up a really good result against Leinster away in the Christmas fixtures. And then all of a sudden they get dominated twice in Europe. It's just like they're just so inconsistent. So even a poor enough performance against Sharks, really good performance against Stormers. Do they have it in them to back up that really good performance and go to Montpellier and get a win? I would be very dubious of that, just because of what they've shown us over the last couple of months. So yeah, more negativity around Ulster, and unfortunately for them, they're on the road. The only positive thing for them is that they've a couple of good home games coming up in the URC that hopefully can build a bit of momentum off, and Richie Murphy can have his feet more on the ground here in Belfast and get his hands on these guys and be able to work with them, because at the minute I actually feel sorry for him. He's not just on the road constantly. So yeah, Ulster Rugby away to Montpellier. I know both teams are struggling maybe for a bit of form, but I'm going to say it's going to be a tight game, but I have to lean towards the home side.